If AI scales leadership, what's the first leadership behavior it amplifies in most companies that you're seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Everyone's asking what AI can do for their business. Wrong question. AI won't fix bad leadership. It will scale it. So what is your AI learning from your culture right now? Today, I'm joined by Ellie Potter, a technology executive turned leadership thinker who spent her career inside fast-moving, scaling organizations where culture and execution actually collide. Today, we are talking about one of the most recent success stories she's had, her amazing book called Role Modelship. Ellie isn't coming from AI from theory. She's lived the operational reality of systems, incentives, and leadership behaviors playing at scale. Her core insight is simple but uncomfortable. AI is a mirror. It doesn't fix leadership, it reflects it. So the real question for every CEO listening is, what is your AI learning from you right now? First, Ellie, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited about this. And I need to know, from CIO to author, what led you down this inspiration?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That's a great question. As you mentioned, I've been in technology my entire career. And when AI started to happen, I observed a couple of different patterns. One is people stop spending time educating humans on basic human skills like stewardship and mentorship, leadership. Everything disappeared from the calendar and it just became AI, AI, AI. So that's one. The other one is my entire career has been driven on the value system of service and giving before you receiving. And I attend a lot of events where I see CEOs and leaders practice that behavior. And the book talks about one specific event where two companies merged to the greater benefit of both of them. But it's that act of service and giving back and paying it forward that made me think we need more role models. Because AI scales behavior. It doesn't really scale intent or aspirations or the nice slogans that are on company walls typically.
Right. Right. Mentorship is a big part. And I've got a number of questions, but mentorship for me, when I started in the IT world, I had an unbelievable mentor. And I was minimum wage, but I was willing to do any job at anything to just get my career going. AI scared me a little bit about, will there be these interim or these young kids that are trying to get into technology? Will they have the opportunity when people say AI will take jobs? I believe job openings are going to come up like crazy, but I am worried about that mentorship, because I had an unbelievable mentor that helped me get into my role and then ultimately led me to my career at Microsoft. That led me to me starting my own technology company. So, but jumping into the questions right now, when you say AI is a mirror, what does it mirror first? Habits, values, incentives, or behavior? Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, it definitely mirrors behaviors because it's what it can observe. It listens to us. It watches us. If you think about, we've been recording sales calls using tools like Teams and Gong for about 7 years. So we've been training AI how to make us better salespeople, but it's also giving us feedback. So for example, you can see in Zoom meetings, if you're interrupting somebody, AI will give you that feedback. It will tell you that you need to take a pause. It also captures things like the ratio of speaking time versus quiet time. So when you talk about mentors, we can think about mentors in multiple avenues and directions. One is human mentors. AI cannot replicate the example that humans set. That's impossible. But we also need to look to AI to be a mentor. And so we have to actively ask for feedback in terms of our processes, our KPIs, outcomes. CEOs can ask, how do I achieve 2 million of ARR per headcount given these constraints? So there's a lot of knowledge out there. What AI can't really replicate is the human example that we need to see ourselves into the future.
Yeah. And that's I can't stop thinking about everything that you've written in the book. And everyone, for if you haven't had a chance, this is Ellie's book. I definitely recommend that every leader out there should be reading this in today's world, and go and get yourself a copy. I got this on Amazon, and it was at my doorstep 2 days later. So what is role modelship in one sentence, and why isn't leadership enough anymore?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for the book endorsement. So I'll give it to you in a couple of different ways. In one word, role modelship is example. If you don't think of anything else, it's the example that you set as a human. And that example becomes a pattern, which is what AI replicates and looks for. It becomes a precedence for something that's never been done. But it's that example, that's the genesis block of everything else. If you want a longer definition, role modelship is a values and behaviors framework, and it's a meta skill. What's a meta skill? It's a skill that teaches you other skills. And those 5 skills that are super important are stewardship is on the bottom of the pyramid because you have to own your character and results and give back and pay forward. Fellowship is how you interact with other people because you're not alone. We win as a team. Then you have the typical mentorship structures, leadership, and sponsorship. Your question was, why isn't leadership enough anymore? Because leadership teaches you how to do things, how to delegate, how to empower. And those things can be recipes and they can be automated. That's what leadership teaches you.
Mm-hmm.
What role modelship teaches you is how to be the example. And you can't automate being a human example.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, if AI scales leadership, what's the first leadership behavior it amplifies in most companies that you're seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you think of where leaders spend their time, they spend their time in meetings. And there's a lot of what I consider detractor role modelship behavior. So I have different types of behaviors on the website. There's a survey you can take to figure out what kind of role model you are. But the 3 main categories are you're a detractor, you're a stabilizer, or you're a multiplier. So let's take one meeting for an example. Leader arrives late, 5-10 minutes late. So what they're exemplifying is that it's okay to be late. 2, they interrupt everybody. 3, when they're not happy with the outcome, they say things like, let's take a timeout. 4, they're not action oriented. There's no conclusions. There's no strategy. So AI is watching all of that. And imagine if AI was just watching the meeting of one really not so great CEO.
Mm-hmm.
AI is going to think that that's how CEOs should run meetings.
Right. Right.
That's not what we want.
Right. So I think you just answered my next question, but I was going to ask, give 3 examples of bad leadership behaviors that AI will scale inside everyday workflows.
So I'll give you a couple of detractor behaviors. One is how you set objectives and KPIs, which is really the strategy. We have a lot of CEOs out there that are still new. They're in learning mode. So as a CEO, you have to realize, are you crawling, walking, or running? And then as you record your sessions, you have to be super deliberate in what is used in the AI training data. You have to label it. So AI understands what's a pattern that should be replicated. 2, you have to really think about below the vision and the KPIs and the strategy is how you empower people. And that really shows up in assignments, in meetings, in follow-ups. Are you directive or are you asking people to step up and take charge? And 3 is the value, the economic value that you're providing as a leader. How is that reflected? A lot of leaders do a lot of busy work, but they can't really articulate the benefit. Increased revenue, customer retention, product market penetration. I mean, there's so many metrics out there that CEOs need to focus on exemplifying.
Mm-hmm. I was mentioning to Ellie earlier that I'm taking a CAIO certification, and to all the trainers and educators out there putting these certifications together, I suggest that you do take the Role Modelship book into hand and embed that into that. I'm not taking it for the certification. I'm taking it to understand the non-technical leadership team's perspective, how they need to learn from this. And so if our educators are out there and putting these courseware together, put this type of behavior on it. And Ellie does very good visual drawings in her book. So she shows the crawl, run, crawl, walk, run in a visual display. So I do love how that was visualized. But where have you seen culture become the constraint on execution, even when these AI tools or technology itself is solid?
That's a great question. Culture is always a constraint because a lot of companies don't think of culture as a product.
Right.
I've done a lot of product stuff in my career, so I think of everything as a product. My life is a product of how I envision it, create it, demonstrate it, sustain
Right.
it. Culture is the same way. Culture is not what you put on the walls unless you can live those values. How does that show up? Culture gets spread through stories. As a leader, I used to have rituals where we would tell stories about stewardship and mentorship. And that's how people learn what great looks like. So we would have an applause ceremony where people get rewarded for their values and behaviors, not just the results. And that's the big shift, is because our future's human and AI can really automate our results. AI can't automate our values and behaviors. And our values are really not always obvious, right? They're the intent behind the behavior. So unless you really verbalize it and you speak about them, AI is not going to know.
Yeah. I've been thinking about my company a lot too, right? Like, how do I mean, with people working from homes, people working from the office, how do I enable everyone from my content directors to my developers where they're finding purpose within and that they're being rewarded every day as well? How do I mentor them to possibly open their own AI company down the road or just do whatever they are having fun at? But everything now, like we're building an agentic Salesforce. Well, still need a human in the loop kind of guiding all of this. How do I have that human in the loop so dialed into passion of wanting to succeed and to deliver? We're right now, we're not about selling widgets. We're about transforming these businesses, right? I was telling Ellie earlier, I'm waking up in the middle of the night because I'm so excited and I'm seeing these successes. But what's the difference between a company adopting AI and a company being fundamentally changed by AI? Because I'm not seeing any of that yet. I'm seeing all of our projects are usually executive sponsored, and the AI team and their IT team are enabling that. But I'm not seeing fundamentally changed organizations yet. So, are you seeing the difference between a company just
Yes.
adopting versus changing? Share with me what you've seen.
Yeah, that's a big question. So maybe let's
Mhm.
unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
First,
Yeah.
I want to talk about the human in the loop.
Yes.
And words have never been more important than the age of AI because it's a large language model, small language model. It learns from words. So I have asked everybody that I work with to evolve that phrase from human in the loop to human in charge,
Human in
human in the
charge.
lead, because our future's human. And we decide what jobs are going to be taken by AI and what jobs are going to stay with humans. And that's going to vary organization by organization, industry by industry. Those are some of the most critical decisions that CEOs and CIOs need to make. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so easy to understand, to be honest with you. Human in the loop? No, that is someone in charge of that, right? So when it comes to other things, like what does human grounding and guardrails actually look like in day-to-day operations now, or what should they look?
Yeah. Guardrails are super important. So LLMs, if they don't perform, get deprecated. So there's standards
Yeah.
out there, ML ops and observability. If they hallucinate too much or they give you negative data, negative images, negative sounds, because it's, the evolution is across multiple areas, they get deprecated. That doesn't happen with human leadership as much as we would like to.
Right.
So humans are upstream from everything. And it used to be that role modelship was a soft skill. It's no longer a soft skill. It's a hard systems input.
Right.
Because the machines, the data, and the algorithms are learning from us. Every click you do online, everything that you search for, every call that you record, that's what AI learns from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very important. So your work says we need more than leadership. So what do leaders misunderstand about being an example worth replicating?
I think what leaders do most often is they fall in the trap of busyness and they get really, really bogged down with their calendar and how much is on their plate. And they don't take a beat to really think about how they show up. So they can show up hurried and frustrated and annoyed, and they want AI to move faster. And that's what their employees think that is the normal behavior of a leader.
Right.
Everybody that I've coached, I've said to them is you have to be a filter. You may have negative energy coming your way. You have to transform that and reframe it and bring out positive of people. Earlier, you said something that's very interesting. You said, how do I help people find purpose and meaning?
Mm-hmm.
I have a belief that purpose and meaning are not something that people find. I think it's something that people give to other people. And if you reframe, like you can spend your whole life, and I struggled with this about 10 years ago, and I was like, how do I find my purpose and meaning? You will never find it unless you give it to other people first.
Right.
If you help others, you're never going to feel like you're missing anything.
Right.
Because you're not going to have enough hours in the day. The other thing I don't subscribe to is this notion that it's super lonely at the top.
Right.
CEOs are super lonely. I don't understand that. As a CIO, I'm never lonely because I don't have enough hours in the day to help all the people that are asking me to help them.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. I think I'm looking more of the 20 some odd year old employees that we have. They get really excited with some of their their Instagrams and stuff. How do I encourage them to see that the reward will be not just from social responses, but financial responses when they get involved, and give them the opportunity to scale and become a leader in my organization? So that's what I kind of meant more by purpose. How do I shift the mind thought of, hey, you had 1 million views on Instagram versus, hey, we just transformed a private equity firm by making the analysts' jobs easier, right? So that's kind of where I was thinking of, how do I become, and it does go back to my leadership on me getting frustrated with people. And got to remember that someone straight out of university, how I learned most of my stuff was through mentorship, through failure, through mistakes, and being told, go and do this, and making sure that the first career employees that I have the capability to make mistakes and not get in trouble, and to kind of learn and to speak up when one of my board members says, hey, try this. If that's not a right example or thing to do, share that with that board member. Say, no, I will investigate that with you, but I'm thinking won't work for these reasons. I think the people my generation want to hear a younger employee speak up and say, hey, that won't work because I tried that. And I think this is the outcome. So I know the answer to this, but which is harder, building AI or building the culture that makes AI safe and useful now? Where do you stand on that?
Oh, I totally think the culture is harder to build because it's so easy not to show up as a role model. To your question on how do you help younger people, I've done a lot of mentorship programs, and I find that an individual development plan is the best way. And you can literally copy page 25 off the book that has the crawl, walk, run table. And you can say, do a quick self-assessment. Where do you see yourself today? And where do you want to be? And then monitor progress. So that's one method. I'll give you 3 questions that you can use to transform any environment. The first one is, who has the biggest influence? The second one is, what values and behaviors are they exhibiting and what is getting rewarded? And 3 is, if AI was only watching them, what would AI think exemplary looks like?
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I have teenage kids.
Hmm.
And I posed those 3 questions and they really resonated. And I have to tell you, I have seen remarkable change in their behavior when they realize that not only other humans are learning from them, but now AI is, their behavior changed.
Interesting. So culture way harder than us building AI these days, right?
Yes.
So how do we keep automation from stripping out that human touch, the human in charge part?
Yeah, that's the hardest question, which is what jobs should be automated
Yeah.
and what should be left for humans. And I think the molding and the shaping of humans and the identity, I call them identity engineers. Every CXO is an identity engineer because they're the North Star of what a human can become and they shape other humans. I don't think that can or should be automated. What could be automated is advice. Advice is very different from coaching. Coaching is asking questions, not giving as many answers. Advice is just telling people what to do.
Right. Right. Chris Gagne from Microsoft, he's Azure architect, AI adoption. He said, like he doesn't talk about removing jobs, right? And that's kind of what the media always pushed. And he's like, if we enable 13 of your employees to do this super fast, so I'm going to be able to lay them off. That's not the answer, because that just puts you back to where we were at the beginning. That doesn't make us more competitive. So, and I wrote down human in charge because that's what I'm going to use on every meeting going forward. But I literally, first of all, I'm even stopping talking about AI these days. I feel when I talk about outcome, CEOs are like, we're in. When I start talking about AI, they're stepping back and they're more fearful, right? So that human touch needs to be there. And it's just like you said, how do we keep those, how do we enable people to be superstars rather than before they were doing mundane work that probably didn't want to even do anyways, and they were probably looking for other jobs on the side anyways because they didn't like those mundane tasks. So going into my next question, where does AI most often fail to produce ROI, and what's the leadership fix to maybe solving that?
Where AI fails to produce ROI is when leaders just ask for speed without really understanding what the problem is that they're trying to solve. And there's so many AI use cases out there. If you look at the evolution of SaaS automated a bunch of processes, customer success, customer support, ticketing, sales processes, marketing processes. Well, AI is doing the same thing. AI is automating a lot of these processes in different industries, in manufacturing. It's automating kind of the same processes. What we need to do is we need to really think about what new things AI can do to solve human hardships that weren't possible before, because it has amazing compute power. It thinks and knows much faster than we do. And at some point, it's going to reach a level where we're not going to be able to understand what it's even thinking. And that's where the guardrails come in. Because imagine it's already writing anti-human poetry. You hijack a hive of AI bots and they can become, any kind of bad actor. But imagine when it's in a language that we can't even understand to stop them. A lot of engineers try to innovate and do things that ethically and morally shouldn't even be tried. Just because the technology allows it, they don't pause to think about, well, what's the impact on, is this good for humanity? The only thing they're really focused on is how do I scale?
Mm. Well, interesting segue. I mean, I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada. You're in San Francisco, right? Is that
Yes.
where you're living right now?
Hmm.
And I have had on my show COOs, CIOs from Asia and stuff, and I feel their adoption and their journey through an enterprise business rollout is further ahead, much further ahead than Canada. So if we're asking a CEO like day one, you know, if a CEO could automate only one workflow first, which one creates that fastest compounding benefit and why?
Well, it depends on the company, right? So I'll give you the example of a software company. The first workflow that typically gets automated is customer support tickets.
Yeah.
And it could be in any function. It could be external customers or partners. It could be internal IT. It could be the finance operations, marketing operations. But that's the first workflow in any company that gets automated.
Hmm.
And some of that is very well warranted. And some of that is not okay because humans struggling with an AI bot sometimes need to talk to a human. So you
Yes.
always have to have the guardrails and the escalation path to figure out at what point do you need not the human in the loop, but the human in charge? Because we're in a decision factory. And imagine that poor human who only has to deal with the toughest problems and things getting escalated to them. It's not a fun job, right?
Hmm.
So you have to design the future jobs to be done in a way where humans enjoy them
Hmm.
and give AI the jobs that humans don't want.
Yeah, we recently rolled out an agentic AI solution for a manufacturing company where it was for their salespeople and their customer support. Someone would call in and just say, "Hey, I know you partially shipped part of your order. When's the rest coming? Were there tariffs and all that other stuff?" The goal wasn't to answer that through a chatbot. It was really enabled so that their customers could call up support or talk to their sales rep and get that answer immediately. And what we're seeing is customer support and the salespeople are more excited because, hey, I got the answers right away. Like instantly there that we put the UX right into Teams so they could just ask Teams those questions. And at the same time, now customers are happy because I had talked to my sales rep. It was great. He answered or she answered my questions right away and it's resolved. And so we again, going back to the human in charge, their entire customer support team and their sales team are now available to be that human in charge when answering questions that may have resulted in immediately the customer just being frustrated. Like, what's been shipped?
Exactly.
What's coming out? And man, I talked to that person. They answered it. Everything else is showing up this weekend. I'm good to go. And now there's new opportunities to do what best the salespeople want to do is sell more things, build more relationships, right? So any idea what three guardrails a CEO can implement, say this week, so AI scales the best of them?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of examples. One is on decisions. Are the decisions ethical and are they for the best of humanity? Are we just optimizing for scale? AI has a huge impact on the environment. And should we be building more data centers? Right? When is that trade-off gonna be beneficial? So that's one, decision making. The other one is really on the work. And the third one is on humans themselves. I'll give you the example with the work. Let's take a different use case. So imagine you're a manufacturer of self-driving cars. It would be a lot easier for humans not to have to worry about parking and picking the fastest lane. What if cars can actually negotiate with each other and use micropayments and digital currencies to decide when to merge, when to pick the high traffic lane, when to park? That's something that doesn't add much value to a human life. It's actually quite stressful. So if CEOs really think about the use cases that give humans joy and allow those jobs to continue to be human and take the use cases where a human really could care less and it's actually quite stressful and frustrating, that's how we can design a future where people enjoy what they do.
Hmm. Yeah, that is really interesting. I mean, AI won't fix bad leadership, and AI is a mirror. So, fixing bad leadership in your book, it'll scale it. I totally understand that now. And mirroring the first, what's the first thing it would reflect if it's mirroring us, and if I'm just having a tough week and it's learning from the way I reacted.
It's your behavior. It's going to mirror your behavior. And that could be posture, tone, words you use, searches you make, images you distribute, anything.
Yeah, I also mentioned that. Some of my own team, I'll explain something to them and I have this vision and this outcome I want to do. And then I go away and they spend a week working and I'm all excited to see what they came up with. And I'm like, what the heck? Right? Didn't you get it and stuff like that? So, if my team can't clearly explain my values, how will AI do that?
Yeah, so communication is a two-way street, right? So there's two possible scenarios here. One is your vision wasn't super crystal clear and it was maybe communicated prematurely, things
Mhm.
changed,
Yep.
right? So that's one scenario. The other scenario is they're so focused on execution and the technical pieces that your vision is pie in the sky for them. And there's nobody to bridge that gap. So what you need in that scenario is a product manager that can take down your vision and break it down into epics and user stories and a roadmap to achieve your vision. Because visionaries typically think really big. I mean, you could have a 5-year vision and they may not be able to understand it because it's just too big. And if
Mm,
you're dealing with engineers that are focused on 3 lines of code, understanding vision is a skill. It's kind of a skill like estimating work.
mm.
Estimating work, how long something is going to take, is really challenging for humans.
Yeah, I've gotten really good at prompt coding. Like my prompting is really good. And when that situation happened with me internally, at first I was like, man, they didn't get it. And I really digested it later in the night. Like, I need to spend way more time explaining. Like, instead, I was rushed and I'm like, hey, here's a first draft, take this and go and put it on our website and all that. And then afterwards, instead of being upset with them, I was really upset with myself saying, why didn't I just take a breath? I could have even said, guys, let's just go for a walk and I could have explained everything. And I'm going to give you a first draft, but don't go with the first draft. What I want you to put on based on what I'm telling you in this walk. Maybe that will give you. And I'm pretty confident if I had done that instead of the way I handled it, rushing in, here's the first draft, update the website and leaving. I think if I just spent an hour explaining what I want the website to accomplish, how I want it to resonate with CEOs and COOs and CFOs that are just embarking on this thing, I think the outcome would have been way better. So I'm also learning that myself because I've seen my AI like I can't even live without it now, but I'm busier than I was before and I don't understand
Yes.
that part. So if AI is this mirror, what's the one thing you'd never want your AI to learn from your workplace?
From your workplace, you
Yeah.
don't want to have that detractor behavior of role modelship, right? You want to either have a culture of stabilizers where you're taking something really good and keeping it, or the multiplication of your values, of your results, of your economic value, right? So you want to kind of park the detractors or handle them with care, focus on the risks and understand what constraints are there. I'll give you another idea for your vision problem if you don't mind. So there's a couple
Okay.
of frameworks in the book. Crawl, walk, run can be applied to anything. So if you take your vision and you ask any of the bots here, take this vision and break it into crawl, walk, run such that I can communicate it. It will do that for you. The other framework is envision, create, demo, and sustain. You can use that for anything, including your vision also.
Mm-hmm.
So I have started asking AI not to just answer questions, which is what a lot of people do, but really break down the work. And that's very helpful because you're giving your team not just the raw idea, but you're breaking it down for them.
Mm.
And that's the product mindset.
Okay. So one of my last questions here. a CEO and CFO get together and they realize they have to look at new technology. Again, I don't like using the word AI, but let's say it. They need to leverage AI. Where would you tell a CEO and a CFO that might have been, working in the trenches and manufacturing something and really don't know tech? Where would you suggest a CEO just start to like don't get overwhelmed? I say don't fear this. Like, how would you just suggest to your friend over a glass of wine, start by doing this?
Well, if they're looking to implement it in the company, product is the first place that they should look at, because that's what's going to make the most difference to long term. If they're looking to learn how they use any of the tools, every tool at this point has a ton of videos on 101, 102. They've created a curriculum. ChatGPT has it, Gemini has it, Claude has it. Pick a tool and just watch a bunch of videos. YouTube is a great resource.
Mm-hmm.
The last step, though, is changing your entire process. So if as a CEO or CFO, you used to spend a lot of your time in meetings, now you need to focus on learning a new tool and spending time there. If you used to give these one-liners to your teams, now you need to go pre-process using some frameworks before you throw it over the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you make your entire workflow starting with AI, it will help your team. Now, the flip side of that is the less you think, the lazier you will become and your brain will degrade. So it's a balancing act. And for some super creative work, you still have to put the effort in actually creating it yourself.
Yeah. I definitely want to encourage leaders that aren't really technical to not be afraid of it. I spoke on stage in front of a construction organization last week, and I had asked the people in the audience how many people were even leveraging, and it was a very small percentage. And you could tell that, hey, we've been doing construction for the last 50 years. How am I going to learn this? And I said, just start. If you're using Office, Microsoft Office, subscribe to Copilot. If you're using G Suite, Gemini, whatever it is, just start with that and don't fear it. And it's not meant to just rewrite your emails. This is really, it's going to start recording your emails. So like every single meeting we have is recorded now, and it reminds me of follow-ups. But I'm just trying to let people know, don't be scared of it. The world is going to change. And if you
Yes.
are a small business, now you can maybe compete with big businesses on your value offering to your clients, and that community, build out your community, and the stewardship, as you mentioned in your book, build that culture within your company, embrace people. I know, Philip, you at AXA Insurance said they reward everybody in their manufacturing plants. If you come up with a cool use case from AI, they were giving out football jerseys to the people for just promoting it. And what he was telling me is some of these employees that were so scared to talk tech because they weren't tech were coming out and saying, "Hey, what if AI would do this for me?" And they were throwing out these jerseys, and everyone was really taking an honor of it. But Ellie, I've had you for over 30 minutes now. I really, really appreciate everything you've done. I've followed your career from being a CIO of it and now an author. I look forward to maybe seeing you speak on stage soon. I would just talk your ear off over dinner if we could ever talk like that. And I'm in Vancouver and San Fran. But tell us where we can find more of your cause and where you're promoting them. And talk to me a little bit about your website and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. And thank you for amplifying the message. So the website is rolemodelshiphabits.com. The book can be found anywhere where books are sold. The website has a lot of materials on how to learn different things, including a survey to figure out what role model you are. It has examples of role modelship. And of course, it has my contact information. So if anybody needs help, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Ellie, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, and I hope to see you in person soon. And keep on transforming, because the leadership out there, they do need they do need the training and education on what you're promoting. And I'm going to promote it to every leader that I talk to. So thank you again for your time.
Yes.
I appreciate it, and you have the best day ever.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.